holy crap. So I just spent the past 45 minutes like doing the news, doing a little video on like Turbo Kid, talking about Christmas, talking about all sorts of stuff. I've been live for like literally 45 minutes without realizing that like I clicked on the link, but apparently like I had everything going, but nothing was. I'm gonna do it all again, just to be clear. You're gonna get the news, you're gonna get all this stuff, but wow, that sucks. That's hilarious. So I accidentally clicked on. Full news. I'm glad because I was doing all this stuff and nobody in the chat was reacting, and I was like, is anybody actually caring about any of this? Phew, that's a relief. So I pulled up the new YouTube streaming interface, and just basically set it up and kind of drafted it to say, okay, I just want to get everything ready, and then Jay said in the chat room, hi, I'm here. So apparently, like, it started up the live stream, but I didn't, without me actually connecting up any of my like streaming the video. So they go, okay, let me start streaming video, but apparently that wasn't enough either. I had to like click a button on the interface to actually make the video I was live streaming and the live chat room actually like go live. It's bizarre. Yeah, I don't know. I think YouTube just like it was consuming the stream, but not. It was consuming my video material, but not actually broadcasting it. So we'll see what happens when I actually, when this video finishes, if it goes somewhere. But that's good to know. That's a little worrying. That as soon as I like draft the stream, it starts the live. It starts the live chat. That's bizarre. Well, at least you all can be part of it. Grrr, annoying. Okay. The good news though is I have low latency turned on, and I seem to be like 5 seconds behind. So at least that will help with the chat stuff. Unfortunately, the lower third is still having issues, and I know what to do. I know where to go to fix that, but I just need to spend some time digging into it, so I can't like fix it right now. Yeah, YouTube always delays transmission a little bit, but I've been able to. I now found the settings to actually shorten that delay. So instead of like 30 seconds like it was before, now it's like 5 seconds, 5 or 10. That's true. Get it to jibber jabber. So, you know what? I need to do this. Do that. Oh, that's a little time sensitive. Go to the Matrix. Not surprising. Ooh, that broke. 1 second. My teleprompter just crashed. But we'll fix that because, you'll hear that? There we are. My face is still a little bit bright, but what can you do? Oh well. What can you do? You can do the news. Welcome back to the anime and manga news for the week ending December 6th, 2019. Starting with, an anime adaptation has been greenlit for yet another isekai series, this time an app game named Shacho Battle no Jikan Desu, or President It's Battle Time. The strategy role-playing game takes place in a world where dimensional portals have opened up, leading to countless dungeons. The player takes the role of a company president, employing adventurers to dispatch into the dungeons, apparently employing a lot of cute girls. Shocker. The game itself was launched this October by Katakawa Deluxe Games and Pre-App Partners. The anime adaptation will air on television sometime in 2020, so I think we may have some time to wait. Oh well. JC Staff also announced this week that they are producing an original anime project for broadcast and streaming next year. The new series, entitled Skate Leading Stars, centers on high school students who compete in a team-based version of figure skating called Skate Leading. The anime itself is billed as a collaboration between JC Staff and two main creators, with Goro Taniguchi as chief director and Yana Toboso as original character designer, and they might be getting some Yuri on Ice, traffic here, maybe, that's the idea. Meanwhile, the multimedia Hypnosis Mike franchise announced this week it'll be adding an anime adaptation to its lineup. The TV anime titled Hypnosis Mike Division Rap Battle Rhyme Anima will premiere in 2020. The staff plans to reveal more details in March. The rap-themed Hypnosis Mike project originally launched in 2017 and features 6 different rap crews of original characters divided up by region. The names of these crews tell not only where the characters are from, but also what they're about, with names like, get this, Yokohama Division Mad Trigger Crew and Nagoya Division Badass Temple. So there's no doubt these are some very cool guys. Since its launch, the Hypnosis Mike franchise has included, CDs, manga adaptations, live events, stage plays, along with a planned mobile game, of course. The group was also the most popular voice actor Twitter account in Japan for the year of 2018. So this is some serious stuff. If you're into rap music, definitely keep an eye out for this one. Studio Bones announced this week it'll be producing an anime film adaptation of Seiko Tanabe's romance short story, Josei, the Tiger and the Fish. Kotaro Tamura will be directing the film, which is set to debut sometime in 2020. The story centers on the relationship between a university student named Tsuneo and Josei, who is unable to walk and rarely goes out on her own. The short story was originally published in 1985 and inspired a live-action film in 2013. And is anyone else getting Toradora vibes? I don't know. The International Animated Film Society announced the nominees this week for their 47th annual Annie Awards. Big stuff in the animation world. 3 anime films received nominations in the Best Animated Independent Feature category: Trigger and X-Flag's Promare, DLE and Madhouse's Oko's Inn, and Makoto Shinkai's Weathering with You. No big surprise there. This category separated out from the main Best Animated Feature category in 2016 with the goal to recognize the independent animators, international studios, anime, and special productions that might not otherwise get the attention they deserve. In other words, Pixar always gets it. The winner of the 2019 award in this film was, big shocker, Mamoru Hosoda's film Mirai. The upcoming ceremony will be held on January 25th, and best of luck to all the nominees. Back here. The Yahoo Japan Search Awards also announced their winners this week. These awards are based on the number of searches for various terms as compared to the previous year. The people, products, and media that show the greatest increase in searches for the year receive the awards. This year's winner in the anime category was Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, which is probably no big surprise. Also not too shocking is the winner in the film category, Makoto Shinkai's Weathering with You. Now, Shinkai actually left a video message to accept his award, saying, and I quote, "In Weathering with You, the protagonist Hodaka submits questions to Yahoo Answers and gets worthless responses. I have to thank Yahoo for giving me the approval to depict Yahoo Answers without even knowing how it was going to be used," end quote. So, cool. Congratulations to all the winners, and may they have continued search popularity, because as we all know, that's the most important thing in life. Now, the actual thing. It was announced in May, so rewinding history a little bit. Back in May, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, and the University of Tokyo announced they were working together on a special project celebrating the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, namely launching Gundam models into space. That's right. 2 specialized Gundam models will be sent into space on a mini satellite, which will also transmit a special message as it orbits the Earth. The mini G satellite, that's what they're calling it, will measure 10 centimeters by 30, or about 4 inches by 12, and will have a Gundam model mounted on top and a model of Char's Zaku mech inside the cockpit of the satellite. Now, it was revealed this week in an announcement that Gundam creator Yoshiyuki Tomino has actually written the message to be transmitted himself. He wrote the message, and he commented, quote, "I made a message that proclaims the truth clearly. I can't reveal it here, so I want you to hear the message transmitted from space. You'll definitely laugh," end quote. It was also revealed at this press conference that the voice actors of Amuro and Char will be voicing the message, which is a dialogue between their two characters. Tomino noted that it was actually difficult to write a conversation between the two characters that didn't involve them, quote, duking it out in their mobile suits, end quote, which I agree would be quite difficult. The G satellite and the special message will be launched from the Japanese experiment module of the International Space Station sometime between March and April of 2020, so in just a few months. Moving on, this week brings another exciting announcement for manga readers, and this time for fans of Typemoon. The game company announced this week, along with Kadokawa, that they will be opening a free manga website on the 20th of this month. The new site, called Typemoon Comic Ace, will feature, you guessed it, the manga based on Typemoon's many creations. The currently running Fate Grand Order manga series will transfer its publication to this website, along with many completed Typemoon manga, including Tsukahime, Fate Stay Night, and the many, 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 many offshoot Fate series. Thus far, the announcements have only been in Japanese, so presumably we'll only be seeing Japanese manga on there. So there's no telling whether Kadokawa and Typemoon will also make these manga available in English, but we can hope. And in the meantime, those of you who can read Japanese, go check out all the free Typemoon goodness, right? Finally, talent agency Aoni Production announced this week that voice actor Macchio Inouye has sadly passed away. Inouye passed at age 80 after a chronic heart attack. He might best be known for his roles as Captain Harlock in various anime series and films, and as the second-generation voice of Goemon Ishikawa XIII in the Lupin III franchise. Inouye took over the role of Goemon in 1977 and voiced the character all the way through 2010. He also voiced roles in many other anime, as well as video games, including Kingdom Hearts 3, and Bushido Blade. Condolences to his family and friends, and all those who have enjoyed his work over his long and productive career. That's the news for this week. Thanks for watching. Always sad when there's when somebody passes away, but that is a thing that happens, sadly. So, not so sure what to do. And you can see I put up the Gundam wall scroll in celebration of the Gundam news this week, because that's a thing you got to do, right? But yep. Yeah, I've not seen any of those 3 films, Promare, Weathering with You, or what was the other one? I forget. But I'd like to. Finally got in this corner of the world, though, which was really nice. So yeah, been watching a lot of anime lately. I'm trying to remember what I've talked about and what I haven't, in terms of, let me look at my schedule. Was it really just, was it last weekend that I was watching all that anime? It must have been. Just finished Iron Blooded Orphans. Really like it. Good to hear that, Olimar. I need to get into Iron Blooded Orphans myself. I watched the first 3 episodes and really enjoyed it, but was trying to get into it with a friend. But oh well. Another voice actor passed this week too. That's sad. Might have accidentally passed by there. That's right, Jay. Right Stuff sale, holiday sale starting now. Right Stuff generally has really good prices on anime. That's worth doing. Loving Beastars, cool. So let me see. So let me pull up my anime list. What do I watch recently? Finished Windy Tales. which I loved. I get the feeling I did talk about all this stuff. 'Cause I remember mentioning Windy Tales. But there's other stuff I know I watched after Windy Tales. So let me see here. I think I mentioned Idol Project, which is crazy 90s. Finally watched Dagger of Kamui. I'm sorry. Dagger of Kamui, which is a classic, I think late 80s, was it? Anime film, about 2 hours. 85, yep. And it's like 8 novels all compressed into one movie, which is pretty crazy. Matt, I mean, Lupin the Third. The manga is from back in the '60s, and the anime was '72, I think. Lupin the Third is definitely an older one. So Dagger Kamui, really very 80s film. It's by Rintaro, who did like the Metropolis anime film. He did the Harlock TV series. I think the Harlock movie, Arcadia of My Youth, as well. Couldn't find Idol Project. That's a shame, JJ. Well, next time we see each other, I'll take back the Time of Evening Come, and I'll trade you Idol Project. How about that? If you like very much like 80s anime films in that sort of serious, dark, almost a sort of Ninja Scroll-esque way, though this isn't as over the top or sort of fantastical, Dagger of Kamui is that. I really, really enjoyed that. Also watched the Ponok Short Films Theater. Ponok Studio is by sort of ex-Ghibli folks, and it definitely feels like a lot of ex-Ghibli stuff. Let's see here. And then also watched, In This Corner of the World, which is a very beautiful, heavy film. It is now definitely in that, In This Corner of the World definitely sits along with Grave of the Fireflies and Barefoot Gen as important war films. Christmas-based anime, yes. There is Santa Company. So I will type that in. Which is Santa Company is based in OVA. It's like half an hour long. It was kickstarted. And indeed, they announced there's going to be a sequel to Santa Company coming out, I think, in time for this Christmas, which looks significantly upgraded. Santa Company is, in fairness, a little, the animation's a little basic. Not bad, but just, a little rough in places, a little basic in places. And the second one looks a lot better. Yeah, In This Corner is one of those movies that, it's weird. In This Corner, the first 2/3 is basically a domestic movie with war as a backdrop, where you're like, okay, this is, I can see what's going on here, and I can see the difficulty of living in this wartime. And then about 2/3 of the way in, it becomes a war movie. It becomes incredibly difficult. I cried. I very much cried at the end of that movie. But it's also very hopeful. What I like is that, Barefoot Gen is very much the punch in the gut. War is terrible and must be avoided at all costs. Grave of the Fireflies is that sort of emotional look at what life was like for the victims, and is dark and difficult, but ultimately has a it's bittersweet. Grave of the Fireflies, whereas In This Corner of the World is much more hopeful. Bad things happen. Dark things happen. Characters go through a heck of a lot. But it is more on kind of the positive side of things, which is kind of nice. I really like Santa Company. Let's see here. Captain Tyler and Pat Labor have Disney Christmas episodes. There's also a great Christmas episode of the parody mecha series, Nadesco, Martian's successor Nadesco, has a fun Christmas episode. Yeah, exactly, JJ. Tokyo Godfathers, definitely. Um, does Tenchi have a Christmas episode? I feel like it does. I can't remember it though. I know there is a Christmas song because I have it on my rotation on my phone. Um, Agreed, Matt. One of the interesting things about in this corner is that, and it feels like an aesthetic choice you could not have made, 20, 30 years after World War II. Um, choosing a very soft, almost comedic, very shoujo esque art style would have felt like disrespectful in a way. But I think we can now appreciate that people would have had that attitude in the war. They would have seen the war as, this difficult time, but also just part of life. You have this war. It'll, life will go on. Um, yeah, there's definitely a lot of Christmas episodes. Characters watching a snowfall at the end of a Tenchi episode. Never Lost Mother. Ooh, right. I think that was the first episode that introduced his mother, and did the famous Tenchi crying and falling snow scene. Famous because like it shows up I think only once or twice in the TV series, and then it suddenly like it is in the movie. Like it's a big thing in the movie. Um, Gosh, that makes sense. You're right. Daughter of Darkness is set during Christmas. It has some Christmas stuff. That's very true. That's what I'm thinking of. Daughter of Darkness. Um, JJ asked, "Is Kickstarter a viable way to get anime made?" Honestly, it is depending on the anime in the sense that you can kickstart, a 15 to 30 minute short film maybe. It does not appear to be a viable way to get like a series started or a movie started. But it gets these little one-off projects made, and sometimes they can lead to more stuff. But it's we're seeing it as if a studio is just getting started and they want to make an anime a little anime to show off what they can do, they'll often turn to Kickstarter to get the money just for that. But you're not going to see anyone kickstarting like a TV series. There's just too much money required. So yeah, and you also kind of need the members of the traditional committee system to actually like do the marketing, to get your composer for you. Like they're also helping you with all the staffing. So it's hard to get away from that, frankly, in your typical situation. So that's one of those things. So I'm glad Kickstarter is there, but it does not seem to be a solution to a lot of these problems of financing stuff. I don't think of any other Christmas themed things. And again, remember that Christmas is not a religious holiday in Japan. It's basically a romantic holiday. So like there's a Digimon episode around Christmas, but it's just them trading gifts, and then I think there's a little romance between like. In this is season 1 between Matt and Tai and Sora, but if Kickstarter single episode gets attention, is it more likely to get picked up by a mainstream studio? Not so far. I'm not seeing these Kickstarters like really uh, result in larger stuff. It's really what Kickstarter is more designed for, which are these one-off projects. We want to do this thing. I honestly think Kickstarter is a little bit better for things like when Right Stuff wanted to re-release Tylor or Dirty Pair. In fact, hey, Dirty Pair. Where it's like there's probably not going to be enough people to buy a nice box set if it just gets released and kind of sits out there. But if you do a Kickstarter and get essentially all of your pre-orders ahead of time, and you fulfill to those pre-orders and make up a few extras to kind of to fill up your stock, then it's much safer than hoping that folks are actually going to buy this box set. I think that kind of makes more sense, as opposed to trying to finance a creative project through Kickstarter. Because again, once you create the thing, you now need to market it, and it's hard to do that in a vacuum. When it's just, oh, here's the thing we made. So I don't know. I'm trying to think. Feels like there are a couple of anime movies that like start at Christmas, but I can't remember what they are. That's right. We're talking to a video. That Kickstarter, and Right Stuff has done a really good job with those Kickstarters. So I would definitely trust them on that. In fact, I think I was on the talking to a video Kickstarter as well. So like they do deliver those, and they deliver some fun bonus features with those Kickstarters. So it's if you like this stuff, you'll definitely get something good out of it. Um, oh, they did Emma. Oh. Isn't there a Christmas thing in Ancient Magus' Bride too? I think there would be, because I mean that's all about England, and England loves its Christmas. It seems like every British TV show has a some Christmas themed episode. Speaking of which, oh, I came across a Netflix series today, which is just my bag. Oh my gosh, it's called The Repair Shop. It's a British TV show that's made in this like 18th century barn on the site of a living museum or an open air museum, which basically means it's a large complex of like buildings where they restore old furniture, clocks, basically anything anyone wants to bring in for like restoration, they will restore it. Basically, they're all, from what I can understand, they're basically employed by the museum, and they kind of open the shop up for folks to come in and get stuff repaired. And through the TV show, they can kind of filter that down to say, we can't just take absolutely everybody who comes in, but we'll take folks that make sense for the show. And it shows them repairing and refurbishing all sorts of stuff, and it's a really neat. It's a really neat show. You get a little bit of history. You get a little bit of like how you would repair this piece of furniture, how you'd repair a clock, without getting bogged down in the details of exactly all the stuff there. You're right. Disney did a Mickey's Christmas Carol, which I can probably recite to you right now. I watched that special over and over and over, Mickey's Christmas Carol. It was absolutely like one of my childhood favorites. Yeah, it was that was actually a really interesting film. Pixar. Head of Pixar, forgetting his name. He worked on that short film because it was right during that time when some of those early Pixar folks were at Disney and then moved on from there. And I remember him being on one of the behind the scenes videos, which I'd love to track down one of these days. It was on a VHS tape somewhere, and they talked about like how they animated it. Thank you, John Lasseter. Yeah, he was an animator on that, and it was weird seeing John Lasseter at like 25, talking about how they chose who animated whom. But yeah, the I would argue the Disney version of Mickey's Christmas Carol is one of the best adaptations, if you can accept that these are all Disney characters, right? It's definitely a loose adaptation, but it hits a lot of different things. Hey, Solid Cumbie. Hey, Spin. I really, really enjoyed that one. Has there ever been an anime of Disney's Christmas Carol? That's a good question. I don't... there must be. There must be. Okay, apparently there was an episode of Adventures from the Book of Virtues, which does the Christmas Carol. But that's all I see. I'm seeing, excuse me. And then, of course, you get stuff like there's a 1971 A Christmas Carol special. It was probably animated in Japan. Right? They probably outsourced it to Toei or something. Who knows? Here's a top 10 Christmas anime to watch during Christmas. Sort of a Stranger. Does take place in the winter. That's number 10 on the list. Should we keep going? Sure. Spice and Wolf. There's generally snow outside. And when there isn't, our heroes are generally forced into a warm, hearty cabin or hall with fire and drinks. Then there's Canon, which again, winter. Winter Sonata, winter. Clannad, because it makes you emotional. Not feeling this. Oh, that's right. So there's Itsudate My Santa. I will put that in the chat. Where the main character was named Santa because he was born on December 24th. And so he hates Christmas, but meets a cute girl. There's the Love Hina Christmas special, Silent Eve. Definitely a thing. That's not appropriate at all. Neither is the climax of Toradora occurs at Christmas. So Toradora, definitely. I've not seen Toradora, but that would totally fit. And then Tokyo Godfathers, of course. Yeah, that's a weird list. I would not recommend that list, but at least we got Itsudate My Santa out of that one. I'm seeming to recall a lot of a Digimon around Christmas. I don't know. It's just in my head. Not sure. Spin, you're watching Den-O Coil. It never picks up. No, I take that back. It picks up around, I will admit, pretty late in the show. There is a lot of just kind of churn and sort of one-off episodes, but I think around 2/3 of the way through, it really recenters back on the plot, and that just kind of moves forward. Just be aware of there. So nope, never seen Toradora. I'll admit I watched the first episode of Toradora and was very much turned off. Shows where the two protagonists hate each other usually just don't do much for me. So I watched that and I was like, this isn't really my thing. I may take a stab at it again. Who knows? Pokemon does Christmas episodes. There we go. Hey, Ginger Gaiden. See, here's the thing. Saturdays get a lot of people. I get a lot of folks stopping by on Saturdays. Comparing Christmas trade in Japan as in other countries. Yeah, well, that's the thing. So obviously I don't know about how Christmas is done in countries outside of the U.S., but Christmas in Japan is very commercialized. It is a time for where there's a lot of decorations put out like by companies as opposed to people like decorating at home. People generally don't decorate for Christmas in Japan. But it is sort of more of a Valentine's Day style holiday. It's a a day when people go out on dates. Apparently it is impossible to find a good restaurant reservation around Christmas, right? See, so spin to win. You and I are in the same boat around Toradora. Congratulations on graduating, Spin. That's awesome. Woo! That's great. Fantastic. Hopefully that's a good feeling to get through all that. The students, my students at work, will be graduating here pretty soon. They have a couple weeks to finish out their main learning material. Basically, actually, really just 3 weeks. Was it 3 weeks? They have 2 weeks. Well, they'll finish out their last project, and then they have like a 6-week project or 5-week project, somewhere around those lines. And then they'll officially graduate, but they will be kind of moving away from us in a couple of weeks, which is kind of weird. That's good to know that Toradora kind of gets somewhere, but it is a little harder to get into. So, fair warning. So yeah, maybe should I move to Saturday? Maybe I will. We'll see. We'll see. I wouldn't mind. I'm about as available on Saturdays as I am on Fridays, so that works. Thank you, Spin to Win. I got some new wall scrolls. I'm showing off. So I mentioned in the sadly in the stream that never showed up. I did a little experiment, which I want to try doing here. It's funny about anime, before I get to that, how often a show will have a weak first episode, but end really strong, or a great first episode and end very weak. There's that a lot. You know, that first episode is like, oh man, and then just... Not always, but it does seem to be coming. So we'll see if I can make this work. And I'm actually going to disable chat for a second because I don't want anyone to throw out spoilers on this. So one of the things I want to do more in the future is talk about movies I'm watching, TV series I'm watching, and pull out things I'm noticing about it from the perspective of like storytelling and movie making and stuff like that. So it isn't necessarily a review. It's if I were making this movie, here's what I would have changed. Or if I were making any kind of movie, here are kind of lessons I learned from watching this thing. I've been watching a lot of like cheesy fantasy films and such, and I don't really have much to say about those. Although I'll be happy to, if you guys want to know why I stopped watching several cheesy movies, I will definitely talk about that. But I want to talk about some lessons I learned and pulled out of watching the movie Turbo Kid, which I watched just yesterday, actually. And thoroughly enjoyed the film, but as with anything, there are some things I would have done differently. And some things I'm like, I that's how that should be done. So I want to talk through 5 things I found from Turbo Kid. And the first big one was around character design. If you've seen Turbo Kid, Turbo Kid has got, so it's basically, it's a post-apocalyptic movie about the future of 1996, even though it was made like a couple of years ago. Turbo Kid is live action, by the way. It's a live action Canadian-New Zealand production, oddly enough. And so it's sort of this retro film where it's as though like Steven Spielberg in the early 80s made a post-apocalyptic film. So there's like, there are 80s elements in it, although I'll get to that in a moment. But it's not like nostalgia central. I should also point out it has a lot of like over-the-top gory violence. People getting their hands chopped off and blood spattering everywhere, and people getting sliced in half and blood covering people's bodies, stuff like that. Really ridiculous, very much intentionally so. Cartoony violence, right, in that sense. Sort of Warner Brothers cartoon violence. So, one of the things I really liked is the use of, I'm going to call character design, and because I like animation, animation tends to think a lot about how to differentiate its characters visually, which live action often doesn't. I was actually just watching another film that I enjoyed, but it was set in this sort of underground facility with all of these like official people, and everyone wore basically the same thing. And so it was hard to differentiate between people, which made fight scenes harder to follow, things like that. So when you get something like Turbo Kid, where each character has very visually distinctive stuff on them, helmets, gloves, all these sorts of stuff, it really elevates your film in a way. It makes your film look different and distinctive, and makes your characters look distinctive. And particularly the villain has this lieutenant that has this like skull mask, like a metal skull mask, and like a a football outfit, like football armor, if you will, on, and like spikes on the shoulders. And it's one of those things where, on the one hand, it does look um, a little over the top, but when you imagine folks scrounging for stuff, in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, that would be effective armor that you might find scrounging around. It's not just, okay, I have, a breastplate and chaps, right? It's like that's not really very effective armor. But this was like, yeah, that would actually work pretty well, and it looks very distinctive. So I like that a lot. One thing that didn't. Oh, another thing on characters. I want to mention this. Speaking of that, we talk a lot about establishing characters when we talk about movies. Establishing your setting, establishing your characters. And I think a lot of folks hear that and they think introduce characters, show your characters at the beginning of the movie. And I think establishing means more than that. One thing I really liked about the movie is how when you first see the characters, you see situations in which they're reacting to various stimuli. Often in movies, when we're introduced to characters, we just see them like waking up and going to work. Or in like very high stress situations where we would all react the same way to that situation. We can't really tell much about their character. And in Turbo Kid, you get to see these characters in situations that reveal their personality. I really appreciated that. One problem I had a little bit is about where things were relative to each other. So, and I think this was kind of intentional. This was obviously not a huge budgeted film. And so one of the things they did is there are a couple of different locations the characters are kind of bouncing back and forth between, but they never really establish how far away they are from each other. And I think it's because like literally probably somewhere in Canada and somewhere in New Zealand, right? And some of them may have just been matte paintings for all I know. So I think like they deliberately were like, we're not going to show that in the distance. We're not going to get any of this across so that we can just have characters going from one place to another and kind of not worry about it. But it made it hard to understand the stakes. If a character's been kidnapped and you have to get to them quickly because they're being tortured, for example, I don't know if that thing is like minutes away or hours away. So I don't know, how long it's taking them to get there, and thus how badly tortured the person may be, how easily it might be for them to die, that kind of stuff. So it was a little frustrating because they made those stakes kind of not clear. We're not establishing that. And again, that's hard to do. There is a thing where they show a sort of a quasi map that one of the characters are trying to make, but it's you don't get the feeling that it is like really accurate, and it's just shown very briefly. So it's not enough to really get across where things are relative to each other. And again, for an action story, that was a little frustrating. One thing I do think they did really well, going back to the earlier thing about nostalgia, I love how they use the nostalgic elements in this movie without making it just nostalgia, shoved down your throat the entire time. So there are, and it's one of the smart things about making it set in 1996, is that there's all of the stuff sitting around is stuff from like early 90s, 80s, maybe late 70s, stuff like that. So that is what they have available to them, but it tells an original story. It is not a remake of, The Road Warrior or anything like that. They're not trying to make a movie that is all nostalgia. There are nostalgic elements in it. So, for example, the music is all sort of electronic techno type stuff. Not really techno, but electronica, that kind of 80s synthwave kind of stuff. But it's all original music that was composed for the movie, as far as I know. And definitely, as far as I know, was certainly doesn't sound like anything that was like made exactly in the 80s. So it is taking that aesthetic, but and taking that style, but using it originally in the movie. The movie isn't made to look like it's on VHS, for example. It has that nice crisp visuals that we're used to in high def. So that I think was really smart. And then finally the ending. often when you're ending a movie, there's this desire to end the movie in a way that ties up the plot threads. And so you leave the movie theater thinking, okay, yeah, we tied up all that end, all that over, movie's over, done, great, I can forget about it. Compared to movies like, say, the original Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, things like that, where you get to the end of the movie and you think, I wonder where these characters, the ones that survived, I wonder what they're going to be doing in 6 months or a year. They're endings that like inspire fan fiction, right? Where you want to kind of spend a little more time in this world. You kind of want to imagine what that other place was like that we glimpsed briefly. That character will be doing in their future. Will they find that other character again or whatever? Will paths cross in the future? Love that. And Turbo Kid really does that. I ended the film and thought, I want to write a story about like those characters, 3 years from now, and the adventures they're having. I think that's really, really smart. Especially for a smaller film, it excites the viewer in a way that they wouldn't for other films. And makes it a little easier to make a sequel if you want to do that. So those are some of my thoughts on Turbo Kid. Like I said, I really liked it. But yeah, that was those are some thoughts on Turbo Kid. Again, I don't know if that's going to be like an actual video or something, but I kind of wanted to get out some of my ideas around that. Cherry 2000. I saw that movie when I was like a teenager, and I remember like really liking it, but I don't know how well it's aged. Yeah, Cherry 2000. It had some neat moments, had some neat elements. But I was also like a big sci-fi nerd at the time, so it may have been one of those things where I was like, oh, a sci-fi film, I will enjoy this. My tastes may have changed since then, or matured somewhat since that point. It's funny how when you're younger, sometimes you can handle material that you wouldn't be willing to live with or accept later on in life, and those are not necessarily good or bad. That sometimes you're more open to things when you're a kid, and sometimes later on you're like, actually there's better stuff out there, right? Just depends. All right. So yeah, if you get a chance to check out Turbo Kid, it's on Amazon Prime Video for free. You can check it out there. A lot of fun. Boy and His Dog. Ooh. I remember reading the original comic of that, just stumbling across it in a Borders or some big bookstore, flipping through that and being like, "Oh, this is not made for kids." And then I watched some of the movie and I was like, well, they adapted that comic book faithfully. Obviously the plot's somewhat different, but that is a hard world of A Boy and His Dog. Red Dwarf. I've rewatched I've watched some Red Dwarf fairly recently, and you really have to get past the special effects in Red Dwarf, and I don't mean that negatively against the original special effects, but just the aesthetic of Red Dwarf is very, very specific, and you have to kind of handle that. And I personally had no problem with that, but then I was used to kind of what special effects on TV looked like at that time, especially for a BBC production, where if you can watch like Tom Baker era Doctor Who, you can appreciate Red Dwarf. And once I got past that, I was like, I laughed along with Red Dwarf. I think it definitely works today. So Matt asks, back in the 90s, how did I react to the Y2K bug? I basically told people, it is always a good idea to have spare water and to, react to the Y2K bug as though, we do get, a power outage or something for a day or two. I was like, I would not be surprised if the Y2K bug caused some significant but relatively temporary outages across the U.S. or whatever. But I was not predicting the end of the world. I was not predicting like anything that would last longer than maybe a week at most. And even then, I thought that would be pretty. In other words, I thought maybe the power would go out in significant parts of the U.S. and it would take days to kind of get that back online. And so maybe it would take a few days for the outlying areas to get back online. But that was the most the most I thought would happen. I was like, I don't think we're gonna see people are redundant. People are dealing with the Y2K bug, right? I don't think that there's a massive amount of folks being like, well, we don't know. So I have not seen Battle Planet. Yeah, and Y2K is hard because we don't know. You know, if the banks and various folks had not done any of that Y2K, not done any of that Y2K stuff, things may have fallen apart, right? I mean, again, I don't think we would have had complete apocalypse, but it is possible that we would have had some really serious problems, around Y2K. So we don't know. Has there been an anime where one episode just ruined the series for me? Yes, I'm sure there has. And again, usually the first episode or two, like I'll just decide, nope, not for me. But I'm assuming you mean like right in the middle of it. You're like, I'm like, nope, never mind. Actually, oh, what's the name of it? And I don't want to type it into a Google search because it's I'm just gonna have to do that. Maybe I'll turn on VPN for this one. VPN. So there's an anime series. Yeah. I'm scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. 1 second, I'll find it. It better be on this list. Koikaze. So Koikaze, and it's the kind of series where a lot of people would not watch episode 1. The staff said that they wanted to make an anime series, and I think it's based on a manga. And this was back when the whole brother-sister thing, was starting to really gain in popularity. And they said basically, we want to make something that treats that seriously. Like, what would happen to actual people if one or the other of them, fell in love with each other, and what would real people react to with that? And it's this very mature, sophisticated look at a brother and a sister, older brother, younger sister, where one develops feelings for the other and is horrified by it. And as the series goes on, the guy gets in, because he's trying to kind of push the girl away, he gets increasingly rude to her. And just increasingly kind of nasty to her, and not in an anime joking way. And she just kind of takes it because there's like nothing she can do about it, and she'll tell him, geez, brother, Aniki, Oni-chan, geez, you're being, that's not fair. So she doesn't just take it and kind of crumble, but there got a point where he was just being kind of very selfish, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, you're just being a jerk, because you feel guilty, you're being a jerk. And again, it's realistic, but it was happening for episode after episode, and there was a point where it just got so strong. I was like, nope, I'm out. Couldn't take Soul Eater. Oh, that's a shame. Squid Girl. Oh. So yeah, Kokaze was a turnoff for me, and I'm going to close that tab now. So yeah, that's one of those things. I'm trying to think. Let me pull up my anime list. How do you get to yeah? Um, yeah, there's not a lot that I drop like halfway through. I'm sure there's gonna be one or two in here where I'm like, oh yeah, that was just no. And of course, a lot you just drop because life. But there's not a lot where once I get into it, something just really turns me off. I'm usually pretty forgiving of plot twists. Like I know I really found Hanamaru Kindergarten creepy, but that was out of the first episode. Same thing with Chubra. I just found that the basic premise of that kind of creepy. Scrolling through, yeah, not seeing anything really. It's an interesting question though. So that just you're like, nope, turn off. Funny. Really, see, I love the visual for Soul Eater. I can see why it would turn people off. Like I am fully sympathetic. That is a very specific aesthetic style. And I can see folks not liking it, but worked for me. Yeah, Chubra felt too exploitative. It felt very much, and I went back and I checked out the manga, and I was like, oh, I have no problem with the manga, but the anime seemed like it was just so many, like panty shots. So for those not familiar, Chubra is a series about a teenage girl. I think she's in middle school who decides to start like an underwear appreciation club, which sounds weird, but basically so many young adolescent girls, feel embarrassed about their developing bodies and about underwear in particular, that they often choose ill-fitting underwear. Like they don't get underwear that actually fits their bodies as they're maturing, and often their parents don't want to help them with it. And so they're often like uncomfortable pretty much all the time. So she basically wants to help other girls feel less embarrassed about that and choose underwear that is comfortable, and especially as again girls are growing and filling out. So obviously there's a fair amount of scenes of girls standing around in their underwear, but the manga treats that as more of a little more, I don't know, maturely. Whereas the anime series would do a lot of, girl trips over and flashes her panties. And it's like, well, that's not really what this show's about. I would totally understand scenes of girls trying on underwear and trying on bras and trying on panties. Like, I get that. And that's going to have a prurient aspect. But the anime just again, maybe it was just the first episode, but it just felt very, very pervy in that way, which just felt inappropriate. And again, with girls that young, where they're like in middle school, it's like, I'm not so comfortable about sexualizing girls that age. But again, it could have been episode 1. I don't know. Yeah. It is okay to not finish stuff that you don't like. That is so true. Sengoku Collection. Is that Sengoku Basara? Because I watched the first episode or two of Sengoku Basara, and no. Mobile social networking game turned anime. Okay. Character designs are cute. Sengoku era feudal lords as cute anime girls. Gotcha. It does seem to be a common thing. Yeah, paranormal clubs seem to be a common thing in anime. I wonder how much the idea of a paranormal club is actually like a thing in Japan. That seems like a storytelling trope, right? Where schools have clubs, and I want to do a supernatural anime, so we'll pretend this school has a supernatural club. But I find it difficult to believe that a lot of schools would allow a paranormal investigation club. That just seems kind of a waste of a waste of school resources. I don't know. Seems a little unusual. Mm, yeah, we've all made those mistakes when we were younger. When we were like, I like this genre or this medium. Thus, I must like everything in this medium. It's like no, you know. Or I put time into it, right? Um, you know, if I started it, I should finish it out because I'm so far into it. Doesn't matter. There's lots of anime I will never see the ending of, and that's just fine. Can I finish Squid Girl? Main character's annoying. Yeah, fair enough. That actually gets to a thing about like Japanese comedy, where there are definitely Japanese like comedic character tropes that just really turn me off. Charger Girl or Charge Girl from a while back, where the characters are basically beating each other up the entire time, but comedically, where it's like you showed up late, so I'm going to throw you into a wall, and it just and partly because it was a guy doing it to a girl, it just felt really uncomfortable to see him bash her over the head with a baseball bat and stuff like that. Even though it's supposed to be, and even though it's clearly meant to be comedic and funny, it's just yes, Juden-chan, thank you. Um, yeah, no shame in dropping something three-quarters of the way through. Totally appreciate that. Denno Coil actually is a show that I didn't quite drop, but I got like I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way in. I was like, this is taking a while. Like I want to push forward in it, but I could have very easily dropped that. I'm glad I pushed forward. On that one, but plenty of others where I'm like, nope, just not feeling it. Not my thing. Then of course you got stuff like Dando the Super Shot, which I dropped that like halfway through the first episode. I bought it on DVD and was like, nope, this is terrible. This is all terrible. Just uniformly. Who knows? Maybe it'll get maybe it gets amazing. Probably not. Yeah, Golden Boy I think is an acquired taste, if you will. Or it's one of those love it or hate it kind of anime. I thoroughly enjoyed Golden Boy, but I also recognize that Golden Boy is a again specific comedic style, specific take on a kind of a pervy character. But Yakitate, oh yeah, well, fair enough. Abenobashi, 6 episodes in. Yeah. I had problems with the running Abenobashi gag around the girl having no panties. And I may be more okay with that now, but at the time I was just kind of creeped out by that one. So I dropped that after episode 1 just because I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. But, and again, for like an elementary school girl, it was kind of like, eh. Can I rank the different Gundam series in my opinion, top 5 or top 10? I can't. I literally can't. I cannot tell you if Mobile Suit Gundam is better than 0080 because they're just too different. They don't, they were made at different times for different audiences. They do different things. There's no, I literally, my brain cannot call, it's like saying apple pie is better than chocolate ice cream. It depends on the day and what I want. They're not meant to be the same thing. What I do for a living, I am a lead instructor at Capital One in a software developer boot camp. So basically, we take folks who are new out of college who have not done like computer programming, and we teach them to code in 6 months, and then they get jobs as programmers. So basically, I'm teaching folks how to code, which is a lot of fun, a lot of interesting. Which Gundam series would you be in? None of them, because that world terrifies me. People die right and left in the world, in every Gundam universe, and no, I have no interest in being in any Gundam universe. Absolutely not. Um, I guess actually, so I will take that back. Probably the world of Turn A Gundam, because while there is a death toll, it is a much more um, chill world than most other Gundam universes. So I probably live in Turn A Gundam world. Yeah, it's funny. I agree, Game Escape. Golden Boy has that weird aspect of. I mean, it's obviously sort of porn-like, even though the show like never actually goes there, but it's just like the continuing adventures of this stud. But it's kind of it's fun to have a story of a guy who just finds all of these beautiful girls, and you kind of imagining that fantasy for yourself, but at least doing it in a way where the character isn't leaving a trail of of questionable decisions in his wake. Although I guess that does happen too, but yeah. Yeah, Amanabashi is a good example of there are some folks who loved that show. Like that was their favorite anime. I remember when that came out over in America, and folks were just some folks were crazy for it. A lot of folks out there just did not. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Haynes man. But unfortunately, a more adult, less intense Tino's journey is Golden Boy. That is definitely one way of seeing it. Though there are also adult versions of Tino's journey if you search around on various websites. Um, Although there are adult versions of everything, if you search around on various websites. Rule 34 absolutely applies to anime and manga multiple times over. Um, but yeah, somebody asked me at a panel, what would you do if you were in a Gundam universe? And I said I would buy and live in a bunker. You know, those worlds are just too dangerous. Um, Interesting. So the Golden Boy manga was much more pervy, much more like, on the hentai level. That's interesting. I'm not surprising. Um, Not surprising, but that's that. It's interesting to see that the anime kind of toned that down in that way, which is cool. Cool to see a different take on it. Actually, same thing with I don't know if I talked about this. Same thing with how heavy are those dumbbells you lift? The manga is significantly pervier than the anime, and they just kind of tone that down for the anime version. There is female nudity in like every issue of the manga. Like it's that much. Yeah, it's like I'm gonna go live in France in 1944. That'll be fun. No. Ah, I did not realize. So spoiler. But I did not realize that until like the episode, like the end of the show, where they revealed that. I'm also surprised that the new Kino's Journey series like reveals that. I think first episode. That it was not a they didn't hold off on that. Although maybe you're talking about the new Kino's Journey. I don't know. The old Kino's Journey, like they avoided that as much as possible in sub and dub. Like they found very clever ways of avoiding any pronouns, until like the reveal like I think like episode 10 or something, where you see Kino's backstory. That was a good twist. But yeah. Yeah, and again, I don't know. I suspect, and I haven't read I read. They came out with like the first volume of Kino's Journey over here, and probably more. So I read the first volume of the light novels, and as I recall, that's not a secret. In the novels, so I think for the original anime series, they decided to keep that a secret until partway through the show. So one anime about the Isekai vending machine. Yep, I'm sure that's coming. The transported into another world as a vending machine. Look that up on Amazon. The light novel is available in English, which is pretty darn funny. But we're getting an Sky series about a company of people who organize dungeon delves, which I'm curious about. that might be a fun like D&D-esque thing. If the anime is literally about like how you strategically like organize adventures to attack a particular dungeon, that could be a lot of fun. Who knows? Cool. All right. I am going to probably head out a bit. Is there an anime you'd like to see as live action adaptation? Not particularly. Not because I hate live action adaptations, but because I don't feel particularly emotionally attached to live action adaptations. I'm like, try it. Fine. I've seen ineffective and very effective live action adaptations of anime, but it is hard to do. But let me take that seriously. I do think so. Let me kind of twist that a little bit and talk about anime that I think would make for good live action adaptations. I think Witch Hunter Robin would be my go-to on that. And in fact, Sci-Fi Channel optioned that a while back. It's about a bunch of adults and one teenager who track down witches who have sort of manifested their powers. It was done as a very serious, like a Law and Order style anime series, and I think that would really work well as live action. I think Darker Than Black, would work well. I haven't seen much of Darker Than Black actually. But yeah, what Gundam series movies had the most emotional resonance for you? Ooh, let me think about that for a second. See, the thing about the so Solid Company, I hear you, but I would then reflect that back and say a lot of people argue then why are you watching the anime when the manga is the correct version, right? Like the manga is the original version and is often better. So I'm totally fine with live action adaptations, right? You want to try something in a different medium, that's fine. I actually have Blood the Last Vampire, both the anime and the live action version, and I'm going to try watching some of that hopefully this weekend, sometime soon. And because I watched the live action, like the first 20 minutes of the live action version at Anime Con, I was like, yep, like that's Blood the Last Vampire. Like you nailed that in movie form, at least what I saw of it. So it could work. Oh, hey, Saf, good to see you. Welcome. By the way, I really appreciated the Ghost in the Shell live action version. I will defend that movie. Yep, agreed. Hellsing could be live action and work. That would work. GTO, totally. I do think Gundam will work as live action. I don't think there's anything kind of inherent in Gundam that makes it impossible to do live action. But a lot of things just kind of aren't going to translate it particularly well. Let's see here. I'll tell you one that I would love to see in live action, would be very hard to do in live action. Here's your challenge, Hollywood or whoever. Bubblegum Crisis. I'd love to see that in live action. And now is the time. Female action movie protagonists, gory thing, sort of a Battle Angel-esque, dark aspects. But I'd love to see someone try to do a Bubblegum Crisis adaptation. And Bubblegum Crisis is distinct enough that Pris and Cilia and the other, are not going to be exactly the same in live action. Like, we're not going to expect the same kind of performances out of a live action character, that we get out of those anime characters. So I think you can, you can translate it to live action a little bit more easily. But it's again, it's a challenge. But also, I think special effects these days could do the hard suits and so forth a little more easily. But I'd love to see that. What Gundam series movies had the most emotional resonance for me? So 0080 certainly leaps to mind, particularly the last 30 seconds of the OVA. Partly because that is an OVA that feels like a perfectly effective sort of action thriller kind of a story all the way through. And then, not getting into spoilers, but the last 30 seconds suddenly reveals, here's what we were doing with this. Here's the actual theme of this. Here's the story we were telling. And everything kind of reflects back on that. You realize, oh, wow. And it hits you. That just... I think Mobile Suit Gundam had a big impact on me because I could see how much they did in 1979 to tell an effective story with a lot of characters. It is just so much of a whole. It just works so well that it was just very impressive. You know, it's like going back and watching Citizen Kane and realizing they did all of this, you know, at this period in filmmaking. Oh my gosh. After that, or beyond that, Turn A Gundam worked for me very well because the fact that the characters were not heroes. They were not your typical shonen protagonists. They were people trying to get by. They were people being attacked by this thing. And they felt more relatable than a lot of other Gundam characters had been. And so when bad things happened to them, I really felt for those characters. Let's see here. Gundam Wing, I cannot talk about objectively. I just adore everything there is about Gundam Wing. And I will say Endless Waltz was a big deal for me because I so respected what they did with the character of Hiro Yui and what he went through, and then the fact that that Endless Waltz pluses that and doesn't, it kind of resolves that, but deals with his thing. You know, you kind of you get his thing in that. And I just love when an OVA does that, or a sequel kind of explains something, if you will. Then there are moments, right? There are Gundams that had moments that just destroyed me. Even though the rest of the series didn't necessarily do that. So, in Gundam 00, for example, there's a moment, and I will simply sing it. I love you. I trust you. That moment. I'm getting emotional just thinking about that moment. Moments in Seed and Seed Destiny, for example, where character arcs come to certain climaxes that just, worked so well for me. I don't know. There are quite a few moments actually in Seed and Seed Destiny where I was like, that is a perfect moment. Emotional resonance. And then there are just characters. Characters that just really stuck with me. I talk a lot about Jerid from Zeta Gundam, who's the kind of the main villain, or one of the main villains in Zeta Gundam, who had a lot of emotional resonance for me, even though he's a jerk and he's kind of an idiot, but he's a very relatable villain. He's kind of the jock in high school who has his own path. Like, he's trying to make it through life, but good guys keep getting in his way, and it was one of the first times, it's probably the first time I've ever seen that trope, that character trope, portrayed in a way that was not sympathetic, but where you understood where he was coming from, and you could see why somebody could get so worked up over these things and make those sort of bad decisions. Char's counterattack has moments that definitely resonated very strongly with me, because they built on what had come before and gave you so much understanding of a character or of a concept in the world, which really, really blew me out. Blew me away. Let's see here. Argue Berserk live action. I have not seen Berserk, so I can't help you there. Watched the movie trilogy originally and the Wings series as well as the Zeta movies and Charles County all this year. Sweet. Yeah. To be clear, I love animation too. I love anime. I'm not particularly a manga guy, despite ridiculous amount of anime in the background. So Addicto Avilio, I would argue, resist the urge to only watch anime that came out recently. That will make you unhappy because you'll just be chasing trends. It's like trying to be caught up on Twitter. You'll never be caught up, and it's just really frustrating. I would just say just go out and look for anime that looks cool to you. Just scroll through Crunchyroll looking for stuff that looks fun, and watch whatever you want to watch. There was something else up here that I wanted to look at. Dirty Pair live action. Dirty Pair is tough because because the tone is so specific. I love what I've seen of Dirty Pair. Really thoroughly enjoyed it, but because it is sort of comedic sci-fi, sexy girls, but they don't treat themselves as sexy in that way. It's not a sexy anime series in that sense. It's kind of tough. I have what are Dragon Balls? I've never heard of that before. I don't know. Let's see here. But yeah. Okay. I think it's gonna have to do it. I can feel my throat starting to finish out and close down. So thank you all so much. I might move the live stream to Saturday. This is fun. So yeah, thank you all very much. We'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll see. But this has been great. So thank you all very much as always. Oh, did I get a chance to talk about the Repair Shop? Watch the Repair Shop on Netflix. Not anime. Amazing maker show. Anyway, thank you all so much. It's been a great time. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. See you next time. Watch more anime.